I'm
Oh,
here.
oh my goodness gracious! Oh my goodness! Hello, Deb.
Hi. I don't know if anybody can see me though. Or
well, you, I don't see you.
if my
Um,
square, my little square is black, but maybe it just takes a while. I was there, but you can hear me now.
oh yeah, I can hear you, and I think everybody else can hear you too.
Okay.
Uh, so I'm going to just first say that Deb's a very beautiful woman. So if you can't see her, if you can't see her, she's a very beautiful person, both just in every aspect. So I'm. Can everybody hear Deb? You can't see her, but we okay. Well, um, we're getting the hang of this, and as the people learn how to do the teaching of talking, Deb, they're going to have lots of upsets, aren't they?
Well, yes, that is true. And I'm afraid to touch anything because I'm afraid I'll go away again. So I I mean, I don't know if I have to tap that little black thing or not.
Probably there's a camera there somewhere, but
Yeah.
but maybe but uh, uh, so anyway, let's just go ahead because I
Okay.
think they can hear you,
Okay.
and so I'm going to introduce everybody
All right.
to Deb Johnson, who is what I would say a care partner extraordinaire. And so I'm going to bring her on. And Deb, I'm just going to ask you if you share with our audience um, the kind of the story of what what you've been through in your journey uh, to help your husband talk.
Well, I guess it goes back 5 years. He's a little over 5 years out of his stroke. He had um, uh, left brain ischemic stroke, and he literally had no speech after that. Um, we went to rehab. He went to rehab for 5 weeks. And of course, you're really focused on the physical part, the mobility part of it. He did have the speech therapy a couple times a day for, except on the weekends, of course. And when he was discharged, um, we went to a speech therapist who was at our local hospital. Now, I'd like to preface all this with I have the utmost respect for all speech pathologists who work with people with aphasia. I just think they have such an important job, and they have so many things to deal with. Their constraints of time and um, overload of patients and insurance, which is the real bugaboo, as all of you know. And you do the best you can. And so we went for saw this therapist a couple times a week. Don wanted to go at that time. He wanted to go every day because he had the idea that if he went more, he would go back to work. And of course, that didn't happen. Um, so we saw therapists for um, that was about a year. And during that time, of course, there's always a lot of ups and downs. And she did work with him on making sounds mostly. I know I look back on that and I think there were a lot of things that he was asked to do that he wasn't ready for. But you try all these different things, and I was always welcome in his sessions. I was still working, so I wasn't able to go very often, but it I wasn't told I couldn't be there. I was welcome to be there. And at the end, about a year into it, I decided that we should try an intensive. And so we were in the process of getting ready to go to that. And then the speech therapist told us that no longer would she be seeing us because Don for one thing, our insurance had long run out, and that's a whole nother story. But she also said he had reached a plateau. Well, I will never forget that day because the look on Don's face was, I thought he was going to cry, because this was so important to him to learn, uh, to talk again. And I think he thought that still, even after a year, that possibly he'd be able to go back to work. I think that reality was settling in a little bit, but so we thought the intensive was going to be, um, not, maybe I realized it probably wasn't going to be the be all end all, but I really had high hopes for it, and it was good. It everything helps, and it was a 4 week program, 3.5 hours a day, um, and at that time, I had, about that time, a little bit before that, I had gotten Mark's book. I think I got your book right after it came out. I had scoured the internet, for things to help him. I was totally committed to help him any way I could. And I just felt like I had to keep looking for things and find different things. And this book made so much sense. I just I was starting to use some of the methods in the book, and it seemed like it was working. And of course, after the intensive, the um, the they said, what the evaluation was that he needed more therapy. Imagine that. He needed more. And at that time too, we were a year and a half out of the stroke, and it was time to start living again. And it was all rehab and recovery and, therapy. And Don had always wanted to go to Arizona for the winters in a retirement, and I was trying to talk him that into, this is retirement now. It's not the way we planned it. For sure, I never planned in retirement to teach my husband how to talk again, but here we are. And so, we I we made that happen. We just went down to Arizona that winter for a couple months, and at that time, after the intensive, um, I contacted Mark. I think it was in November, um, and he was so gracious that, he said, "Well, there's two things. Don has to be stimulable. Is that the word?
Yep.
Is that a
Would
word?
you? Yeah. Would you tell them what stimulable means, Deb?
Stimulable. In other words, he had to be, able to, be stimulated to say words and be able to repeat the words that Mark gave him in a embedded question or statement, or, um, and he was stimulable. I was pretty sure he was, but and then he also, the second thing was, he had to be willing to be stimulated. And, I that's very important because, if a person isn't interested, they're not going to get a lot. If they don't want that, they're not going to be able to make progress. So the person with aphasia has to be invested also in this. Um, so we started sessions with Mark, and what was the greatest thing is that we could be anywhere. We were in Arizona. When we came back to Minnesota, we we could still have therapy. We could, so we have been with Mark now for a little over 4 years, or going into the a little over three. I think it's in our fourth year, but with all of this, I know probably left out some important things on this journey, because it's not quite as simple as being able to explain it in a few minutes, but um, I guess the thing that I realized at the end of even 6 months of therapy is that there is no way that he was going to be able to make progress if we didn't keep at it and didn't do it every day. And I feel I feel that no insurance. There's no insurance that is going to give you everything that you need. Um, in and I think that learning Mark's methods of stimulating speech and modeling speech and uh, being there and doing this on a daily basis is so comforting because no matter what, that's going to be there for you, and you are going to be able to help your loved one with his speech and learning how to converse. And the other thing is, Don never did really like using apps. Now they work for some people. The we tried um, using all the wonderful apps that are out there, and we just never took to it. Now some people do, and that's great, but he just didn't like that. He didn't, and as far as the intensive, he went along with it. He did well and everything, but he didn't want to go back. He did not want to go back to an intensive. And I
Okay, Deb, let me interrupt you for a minute,
okay,
okay? How many years before we started to work, how many years did you have speech therapy,
a year,
including the intensive?
including a year and a half, about.
Okay, okay. And did any of the therapists ever teach you how to help him talk at home?
No,
Okay, okay.
that was something that was missing in the therapy. In fact, the intensive, and I don't know if it's still like that, but the intensive, I was only allowed to watch one session by closed circuit TV. And the rest of the time, except for some social gatherings together, I was not involved at all. Um, the caregivers went one way, and they did their sessions, and so the people were wonderful. I mean, they really uh, have a heart for these people with aphasia, but the caregivers were not involved in learning how to help them at home. Um, and and so I felt like this method of yours was going to help me to help him. I just needed to know how to do that um, because I'm with him all the time. I'm the one that needs to. Oh boy, I've got stories, and I know Mark knows some of these. Trying to fix the weed whacker in the garage, and I was pretty sure I knew what was wrong with it, and he didn't think I was doing it right. And the only thing he knew how to do at the time, he could count. He'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. He'd count. He's a numbers man. and but he I was I but he was yelling at me. I was crying. He was yelling at me that I was doing, that he was counting, and I said, "This isn't helping." So I promptly left and bought a new weed whacker at the local big box store, and we didn't fix it. And I think now I know how to. converse with Don, and of course, he is speaking much better now. And we can have a meaningful conversation about just about anything.
Like what?
Just about anything. How to fix something, how to, and it isn't just his wants and needs. I mean, you always want to have a deeper conversation with your loved one than just what you want for breakfast. But all of that is very important. Um, what you want, what you need. And he can tell me that now. So let's see. I'm kind of bouncing all over, aren't I?
No, that's doing very well. Um, tell, tell, share with everybody the difference in the therapy between the traditional therapy that you did and the therapy that we do, and what it's like,
Oh,
and what's
well, the traditional therapy was, um, I remember it, of course, it's been so long, it's been a couple of years, but, there's worksheets and there's, um, to do and I'm thinking about, well, the intensive I really don't know, but because although they had a lot of, they used some apps in the intensive, I think, and there were the worksheets and a lot of naming things, which you have to do at first. I understand that, but the conversation is the biggest difference. Conversation and talking about the things that he is interested in, the things in our lives that are meaningful to us and to him. Um, that is the biggest difference.
so what's a session like, Deb?
A session, well, it it's like getting on a phone call, a FaceTime call with a friend. We talk about what's going on in our lives, and somehow um, we learn. Don and I have learned, and I have learned how to uh, stimulate his conversation and model the words, work on the apraxia, work on numbers. Um, we learn how to do that through conversation, back and forth with you. At least that's the way I just think that's where it's at, is through conversation.
Yeah, so some of the things that we do to share with our audience is we'll talk about a vacation. We'll talk about uh, something that something that Deb made that was really, really good. We'll talk about Don's dad. We'll talk about um, his children. We'll talk about so many things that are so important to him that he loves to talk about. And we know the number of words to stimulate because there's a certain number of words to stimulate um, when you're helping a person talk. And we're going to show you a way that you can find out how many words to stimulate a person to talk. Now, I'm working with this one person right now who he's right now only at 2 words, and Don was at 2 words for a
Oh
while,
yeah.
and we were at 2 words for maybe 2 3 months, and then we expanded it to 3, and then from 3 we went to 4, and from 4 we went to 5. So uh, it's very interesting. The conversation, the number of words in the conversation that a person with aphasia uses is depending on how severe their aphasia is, and we find exactly how to find out how many words to stimulate, and we stay right there until they start expanding and adding more words themselves, like in the pump analogy,
Right.
Barbara.
Right. Yeah. And we work on different things at different times, and you know, for a while, well, like right now we're working on questions and tenses. Can you imagine that? I can't even believe we're working on grammar. Oh, because you know, when we started, like that, Mark said, 2 words. It was naming things and mainly getting. Well, he wouldn't say my name or couldn't for 4 months after his stroke. So he was very compromised in his speech. Uh, and yeah, now he's well. We have days where he's saying compound sentences, but then there's days where it doesn't go that well, and this is something that all of you caregivers can identify with, the ups and the downs of this aphasia, um, and I do have the confidence now, though, because of Mark's message, that no matter what, we may have a day where there's very little speech, but I know that it's there and it's going to be there the next day or the next day or the next day, and and that we will stay with it. However, well, it's just going to get better and better. I really believe that. So.
So Don is speaking at about an average of about 4 to 5 words per utterance. Now he can speak in compound sentences and does, but speech is variable depending on the time of day, just like all of us. You know, all of us, sometimes we're better in the morning than we may be later in the afternoon.
Mm.
Well, the same thing goes with people with aphasia. But on an average, he's somewhere around 4 or 5 words per utterance. And there are some days that he only speaks in 1 or 2 words per utterance. He may be tired, or he may not want to exert the amount of effort that it takes to speak, because it takes a lot of effort to speak. And it takes a lot of effort for a caregiver to be stimulating speech also. But here's the thing about Deb that everybody needs to know. She's one of these people that that if they're away somewhere, even on a holiday often, speech is not interrupted. The visits still continue. You know, I worked this week with a couple who are on a cruise to Alaska, and that caregiver, she's not going to let any day interfere with her learning the teaching of talking and the three of us working. Now, there's some that we work with one-on-one with, and there's some that we work with a group. Like there's some people that I'll work with that may have 4 or 5 people in the group for some, and then for others, they might want to learn the teaching of talking with an independent study course. So there's lots of options for everybody in how to do this. And Deb is, let me just tell you 3 or 4 things about Deb real quick, and then I'll let her finish up. First of all, she's a no nonsense type of person, okay? But she loves to have fun. And our conversation, we're laughing the whole way through the therapy. But at the same time, we're stimulating sentences, cracking jokes. We're talking about all kinds of subjects. So she's like a no-nonsense person. She's committed to the process. It's not a half effort. She's sold in on the process. And because she's sold in on the process, she shows up. She shows up all the time to help her husband speak, and she has a sense of humor, and she's committed, not halfway. She's not the person who wants somebody else to do the therapy. She realizes that if anybody's going to do the therapy, she's going to do the therapy because she knows the words that he likes to use. She knows the expressions that he likes to use. And so she just knows him better than any other person on the planet. And she knows what he wants, and she can stimulate those words all the time. So, Deb, I'm going to let you kind of finish it up with some conclusions. Um, about a summary of your thoughts about caregivers and their role helping their loved ones speak. What do you think it should be?
Well, I think that this caregiving is very multifaceted. You've got a lot of things to deal with, and the the thing that I hold most important, I guess, in all of it, is that the speech is communication, and we hear that all the time. Communication is everything, and to me, the hardest thing about this whole stroke business was the loss of speech, the loss of communication. So much was lost when he lost his speech. Um, yes, the physical things the mobility issues are tough to deal with, but I I felt like I was going to I researched things. We tried different things. Do what works and don't be afraid to break out of the norm and try different things. And I found that the case not just with speech but with other things also. You know, try this method that is seemingly a little bit different take. I was committed right away after the stroke that I was going to do everything I could to help him, because after all, my life, we I want to have a full life with my husband, whatever we have left, and enjoy it. Um, and I just was committed that this was going to not just help him but help me also. And do I do everything perfectly? Of course not. And I think that as a caregiver, you've got to um, be a little kind to yourself when maybe there's that day with you just lose it. You just like, okay, this is just more than I can deal with. I you know and, and then say, okay, well, it's okay. Tomorrow is another day. Or and you know sit up on the edge of that bed and plant your feet on the floor, take a deep breath, and start over, reboot. um that's just how it is with this speech, because it's up and down. And know that, and know it's going to get better a little bit at a time. And don't let anybody tell you that it can't get better. Um, I think that if you hang in there, and you know what, I'm making it sound like it's really hard, but it isn't. In fact, it almost seems like it's not hard enough, that I should be even doing more. It's fun. His method is fun. It's it's rewarding. Um, we do have those. I think the hardest days are when Don is very tired and he just can't talk at all. I mean, he has these days. I call it neural fatigue. It's usually after a stressful time, or it could even be after a surge in progress, where the brain just needs to rest, and he just needs his rest. And then no matter what you do, you just have to let him. I have to let him either stay in bed all day and sleep, and just take a break. So you do need your little breaks. And I've had mine too. I've gotten away with friends for a while, and then when you come back, you're revived and keep going. But I say give it a try. It's it is such a method that you can use all day, anytime, any situation. Um, and I don't I'll get choked up about it because I know the day is going to come when Mark will want to get in his RV and won't want to have speech anymore. I hope we always stay friends. I look at Mark as a friend, and I know that as far as helping Don, I'll be able to do that even if Mark isn't there. So,
Yeah. Now that is the key. And we're going to conclude on this statement. Um, I when I left hospital work, I kind of wanted to leave a legacy. I'd spent 45 years. Yeah, I've spent 45 years helping people with stroke and aphasia, and have developed some methods that I know are very, very helpful. And I didn't want to see that knowledge and those skills and those methods, I didn't want to see them disappear um, after I left full time work. So that's why I wrote the book. And that's why I made a audible.com recording. And that's why I developed a videotape independent course. And that's why I'm starting groups of people who might want to work as a group and allow me to help them. So I want to be able to leave this world when I leave this world, knowing that I've made a contribution that will live on way longer than me. So that's part of my motivation. So Deb, I want to thank you, and I'm sure everybody else here uh, give you a strong standing ovation.
oh,
Um,
well, thank you. I kind of played in my mind since yesterday what I was going to say, but um, I hope I covered it well enough for everybody.
yeah. Yeah. And if we ever get this thing working again, maybe we can show them a little bit what a visit might be like, Deb. If
Oh,
all three of us.
I
Do you think that
I
you
think
think
that
that would
would
be
be
fun?
great, and I think maybe we can somehow we can work out these bugs. I
Yes.
there's a way to do this. For some reason the camera is not working on my yeah. I tried tapping the little black box and it keeps flipping around. It's still black, but
Okay.
so well. I hope all you caregivers out there get, try the teaching of talking, um, and hopefully I will be on Facebook Live again with Mark.
Yes. Yes. I'd like to invite her, and I'd like to invite Don also, and show you what a typical visit might look like.
Oh, that would be great.
But we couldn't talk about the beer, and we couldn't talk about
Oh,
the wild parties, Deb.
oh
We couldn't
no.
do that.
Oh, yes, we do have fun. We do.
Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody, please share this meeting. We finally got it right. And we'll get other guests and recordings that'll work, and we'll have Deb come back. Please share this with your friends, and please share this with your therapists, and please share this with as many people as you can. We really want to get the word out because um, it's just another way to help your loved one talk. So just do that, and please friend us on Facebook and ask to be our friends. And please if you like what you experience today, just let us know that. If any of you have any questions whatsoever about anything, please contact me at talkwithmark1@gmail.com. And or you can find me on Facebook and make a request. But it's a little bit easier by email uh, because there's just a whole lot of comments that are made that I have to go through every day, and my eyes are getting really tired going through them because there are a bunch. So thank you, everybody. Deb, thank you, and thank you, Don, for teaching Deb and teaching me how to help you, and hopefully we'll all meet him. And be on the lookout for class tomorrow. Our class tomorrow is going to be some more information for caregivers, and we're going to have a question and answer, and we're going to have some live demonstrations as soon as I figure out this black box. And Deb really doesn't look like that.
Yes, I looked especially good today, you know. But
I'm so sorry.
because sometimes I don't look so good in the morning.
Okay, everybody, we'll see you. Today is, let's see, today's Wednesday, so we'll see you Thursday at 6 p.m. for our next class. And believe me, I'm going to get all these bugs worked out. I'm going to get right to it. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming. Share, 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 share. Like, and just have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye,
Bye-bye now.
everybody.